first thing that comes to mind, oh, it's a very technical domain, it's full of coding and everything. So what if someone from a non-technical domain wants to make a career transition? What would be your suggestion for them?
Okay. So decide upfront whether you are passionate or you come to life when you are working with data and insights driving business outcomes, creating value, enterprise value. Does that make you passionate? Are you passionate about that? If you are, then this is the field you should be in. If not, don't go in this field. First point. Second is, ask yourself that when you're put in a situation where you need to make decisions, are you analytically minded or not? If you are, this is your field. If you're not, this is not your field. If you tend to be more driven off emotions and emotional quotient, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, there are lots of people who are very successful doing that, then this might not be the field. This thing about, oh, I need to code or I need to read data, I almost think is somewhat secondary. I'll explain with an example. So you guys are all aware of Steve Jobs, right? Doesn't need introduction who he was.
Correct.
Did you know that he never actually ever coded anything? But he was, and he is probably the most prolific product manager ever in terms of conceptualizing products to the nth detail, because he was extremely passionate about taking technology and creating a phenomenal user experience, the ease and the sophistication of user experience that would just, blow away the mind of a consumer. He came with that design principle, but it was all stepped in. It was steeped in, that's what I was looking for, steeped in technology and extremely detailed technical science. But he had an outside in view of it. So while he was not himself fabricating those products, he had a very clear vision of what the product should do, how it should work, what is that extraordinary user experience that needs to be had to make it successful in the marketplace, and lastly, how do you market those kind of products, right? So he brought those multidimensional skills to the table. And I think now, while that was all about Apple as a firm, but in the ecosystem of if you're doing data analytics, I think it's super critical that you have to have a passion for creating outcome with data and technology that is going to compute on the data. And that's a first principle. And secondly, you have to be analytically minded. Second principle. Third principle is, I think if you're starting ground up, having a sense of systems design. I purposely don't say coding, I say systems design. So how do you take multiple building blocks, put them together like a Lego kit to then solve or create a pipeline, which then solves a problem? Ability to visualize that top down, the whole system design element is also very, very critical skill that you need to have. Now, then you take each of the building blocks, and if you go in it, that's when you start to get now to actually thinking about analyzing data, working on algorithms to build analytics, so on and so forth. You might not need to go to the step 4 or 5. And I use Steve Jobs as an example there. Steve Jobs is a great systems designer. So your primary skills are, you have to have a knack for this. You have to be highly quantitative. You have to have tremendous system design and problem solving skills. And even if you're not doing the work, I use this phrase, you need to be able to read the code, even if you don't write the code. So if I read, I am actually pretty decent even today at reading code. So I can quickly understand the system design if I'm shown, let's say, 100 lines of code. Because syntax is something that you can learn. If you do it enough, if you're rusty, that rust will wear off. But system design skills are first principles kind of skills. So you need to be passionate about that. And if you are, then you'll be successful in the role. So I think that I don't think it's all about learning so many programming languages or knowing so many libraries. It's actually more about understanding how systems work. So if you understand how the transformer architecture works conceptually, then that's good enough for you to then say how an LLM pipeline will be built, right? That's how I think about it, at least. So these are kind of some of the considerations on what will make you successful as a data analytics leader.